So, hello, folks, and thank you very much for to the Lublin European City of Culture candidates for inviting me to come and visit Lublin. And it's the first time I've been here, so it's a real privilege to come and see your very lovely city. And Conrad gave me a guided tour around some of the cultural buildings and parks and the old town just this morning. So really interesting, the possibilities, but also I had a glimpse of the challenges you have ahead. So I'm going to talk to you about cross-sector collaboration and fundraising that we conducted at LIFT. I worked at LIFT for 20 years with Rose Fenton, who's just coming in the door there, who many of you may know, and other colleagues. And I finished work there in 2006. So the story I will tell you covers that period. And so without further ado, I'll plunge in to the story. So a few definitions just to start. I'm going to be talking mostly about theatre, but I think the principles and some of the elements that I'm talking about can apply equally to visual arts, to dance, to craft, to music. So although I'll be talking through the prism of theatre, you can maybe extend and twist the ideas to whatever perspective you are coming from. I'm going to be talking about business, and when I say business, there are probably as many businesses as there are arts organisations and different characters. It's not a homogeneous group, but when I talk about business, it's a for-profit organisation with shareholders or with private interests. And civil society, when we were making a big transition in the UK, we found ourselves having to learn about or relearn about what civil society was. And this definition of unforced activities beyond the family and the state and the market around shared interests, values or purposes, often responding to local need. And cross-sector collaboration is the process of spanning boundaries between disciplines, between organisations, between the kind of silos that we tend to get into, even within one organisation. And also, when we collaborated across sectors in London, we were engaging with the private and the public sector, with sectors of society like housing and health, criminal justice system, education, and so on. So I'm going to be talking about ideas, resources, people, and funds, and also a lot of challenges. And although the story is specific to London, I hope that some elements perhaps you'll find in common with some of the issues you're dealing with here in Lublin and the possibilities that may lie ahead. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a bit of the story of LIFT, because the London International Festival of Theatre was the canvas with which I was working, and I believed passionately in the artistic programme, sufficient to carry on being motivated to try and find resources and funds for the festival. I'll first of all talk about commercial sponsorship, because that's the shortest route to enlisting the interest of private sector organisations to unlock funds to support cultural activities. And some of you may already be well experienced in that kind of approach, but others may not be so familiar. I'll then talk about how we as a festival felt compelled to embark on a wider dialogue with other sectors in the city and, in a sense, understand better our own civil purpose. And then just towards the end, I'll perhaps posit a kind of so what, after all this story, what's the relevance to Lublin and actually wider challenges that the whole world is facing. So LIFT, the story. LIFT was started in 1981 by my colleague Rose Fenton here and Lucy Neal. At the time, they were very young. And I have heard them say that if they knew then what they know now, they may not have started it. But it's like climbing a mountain. Any human endeavour, you get to the top and you see another summit. But somehow the energy and commitment kept going for 30 years and is still going under other leadership. So the artistic programme of LIFT evolved in tune with artistic instincts, what artists were doing, and with wider changes in the world, in the wider world. And broadly, the LIFT programme can be divided and described as falling into three sections. In the early years, 1981 till around the early 90s, we, in a sense, described that as a window on the world. It was sufficient. There was no international work coming to London at all. There had been occasional ad hoc visits, but there was nothing consistent and sufficiently interesting to audiences that were the presentation of international productions. Then the next phase was actually a window on London. As the demographic changes happened and the world and peoples of London as coming from many, many different cultures, we became conscious that the world was as much in London as it was, in a way, out there. And so our role became much more to bring the two together in a dialogue and involved commissioning and all kinds of other activities to bring both artists based in London but of different cultures and artists from abroad, so to provide that meeting point and the context in which that could happen. But it also involved working with young people, taking care, in a sense, of our own future markets. The theatre-going public, the average age in London is around 55 to 70, I think. It's very old. So what is the future? I mean, in fact, the average audience age of LIFT, because it was risk-taking, interesting, contemporary audiences, was more akin to a rock and pop audience, so much younger. But we wanted to pay attention to a still younger audience and how we engage children in schools and introduce them to the excitement and wonder of theatre. And then the latter phase, opening doors really to London and the world to explore together all the changes that are happening through much greater mobility, through cheap air travel, through technology, and through these mega issues that are facing humanity, such as climate change. So just to bring some of those amazing artists into the room, I'll show you some images.